Most women believe men fall in love with beauty, with curves, with a chase. But that's only the surface, a distraction. What would you think if I told you that men don't fall in love with how a woman looks, but with how he feels in her presence? That what truly captures a man is not her appearance, but the invisible current she generates, a feeling he often cannot name, only crave. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more Carl Jung-inspired insights on feminine power, attraction, and healing the unconscious patterns that hold us back. In the silent chambers of the male unconscious, beneath the ego's pride and the world's expectations, lives a longing, not just for connection but for sanctuary. Not for control but for surrender. Most women don't realize this. They strive to impress, to perfect, to present, unaware that what a man truly bonds to is the emotional atmosphere a woman evokes around him. Not the spectacle but the soul. Not the performance but the permission to be. To exhale. To be seen not as a hero, a warrior, or a provider, but as a man with wounds. Carl Jung spoke often of anima, the feminine image within the male psyche. This inner feminine, ancient and powerful, seeks resonance in the outer world. A woman who unknowingly mirrors this archetype, through presence, not performance, awakens it. He doesn't fall in love with her. He falls in love with the reunion of something ancient within himself. Her essence evokes memory, not of the mind but of the soul, a recognition, homecoming. And yet, most women don't notice when this happens. They mistake it for chemistry or charm. They do not see that in their softness, their attunement, their stillness, they have entered the sacred spaces of his inner world. They may not even realize the sacredness of their emotional aura. She laughs effortlessly, and he remembers joy. She listens without interrupting, and he remembers peace. She doesn't fix him, she reflects him. And it is in that reflection that he begins to fall. You may not see it when it happens. You may be sipping your tea or tying your hair. You may speak with honesty, unaware that your words carry a frequency of safety he has not known since boyhood. You may look away, and in that unguarded moment, he sees a part of himself he had long disowned. That is when he begins to love you, quietly, not with declarations but with presence, not with gifts but with gravity. A man falls in love when his armor becomes unnecessary, when the world outside still demands he perform, but in your presence, he no longer has to. You do not judge the cracks in him. You sit beside them. You do not shame his shadows. You see their poetry. Most women overlook these subtle alchemies. They wonder why he leaves or why he stays. They try harder, speak louder, shine brighter, when all along it was the invisible things that made him stay. The easy things. The things that cannot be performed, only embodied. But these easy things are not easy to most women. Because to offer presence, a woman must have met her own pain. To offer softness, she must have wrestled with her own sharpness. To be that rare emotional landscape where a man can dissolve, she must have walked through the fire of her own becoming. Jung called this individuation the journey back to the self. A woman who has faced her shadow becomes luminous not because she is perfect, but because she is whole. And a whole woman invites a man into wholeness, not by force but by field. So he falls not like a soldier wounded, but like a king remembered. Not into chaos but into coherence. And yet she may never know. Because what he's drawn to, she does naturally. She thinks she's just being herself. And that is precisely why he loves her. To the woman unaware of her power, it often feels like nothing special. She is simply kind, present, perhaps even reserved. She does not chase, nor does she seek to captivate through manipulation or loudness. And yet, men orbit her presence as if pulled by an unseen tide. What she doesn't realize is that it's not the words she speaks, it's the pauses between them. It's not the way she dresses, it's the way she makes space. For herself, for silence, for authenticity. A man, when he is near her, does not feel judged. And that, for the modern male psyche, is a rare form of grace. From boyhood, he has been shaped to wear armor, to be the protector, the achiever, the solver. Rarely has he been allowed to be simply human, uncertain, tired, fractured. But when he stands beside a woman who has met her own shadow, she does not flinch when he reveals his. He might test her at first, as the ego often does. But when she remains unmoved, not in coldness but in calm, his heart begins to soften. It's not love born of intensity. It's love born of safety, of return, of seeing that this woman does not need to consume him to feel worthy. She does not demand that he fill her emptiness. She has already sat with her own longing and made peace with it. She is not there to complete him. She is there to witness him. And in that witnessing, he meets a version of himself he did not know existed. Not the man he shows the world. Not the competitor. But the boy who still aches to be loved without condition. This is the hidden gateway. Not through seduction but through soul. Not through games but through groundedness. A man's falling in love is not a sudden blaze. It is a slow awakening. Often he cannot even articulate why. He will say things like, "She makes me feel calm," or "I don't have to pretend around her." That is the language of the heart. That is the voice of the anima within him recognizing its counterpart. Women who do not yet see their value often overlook this exchange. They ask, "Was it something I did?" As if love is transactional. But no, what he falls for is not what you do but what you are. He falls for the emotional climate you carry. The frequency of your healed wounds. The grace you've grown in darkness. And that kind of love, deep-rooted, real, is not fragile. It does not falter with age or fade with novelty. Deepens. Jung knew that within every man there is a deep yearning for the feminine, not as decoration, but as mirror. He saw that love was not a game of possession but a path of transformation. That a woman who knows her worth does not fight for attention. She magnetizes it. Not through effort but through essence. Yet many women are still caught in the loop of proving, of striving, of becoming what they think men want instead of honoring what they already are. And in doing so, they bypass the very qualities that men fall in love with. Quiet strength. The vulnerability held without apology. The way she doesn't flinch at emotional nakedness. These are not tactics. These are truths. Ancient, archetypal, eternal. A man falls for a woman who has remembered herself. Because in her remembrance, she awakens his. She does not perform femininity, she embodies it. And that embodiment calls to him, not as temptation but as truth. As a reminder that love is not a transaction, but a transformation. And in that field of realness he lets go. A man doesn't always know why he can't stop thinking about her. Why her voice echoes in his memory like music he's never quite heard before. Why her absence feels like silence, not just space. It isn't because she tried to impress him. It's because she never needed to. In her stillness, she gave him something the world never offered. Rest. And in that rest he began to fall. The masculine unconscious is hungry for what it rarely receives. Not just beauty but attunement. Not just desire but depth. A woman who has done her shadow work brings with her an unshakable calm, a knowing that doesn't need explanation. She sees through illusions, not because she's suspicious, but because she's awake. She's been to the edges of herself, and she did not break. That kind of woman isn't easy to impress, and that is why she's unforgettable. When you are her, you don't have to demand love. You become the echo of everything he forgot he needed. You don't try to heal him because you've already learned to heal yourself. And in that self-healing you become medicine. Not a cure, not a fix, but a presence that makes wholeness feel possible. Jung taught that the soul speaks in symbols, in dreams, in the quiet language of archetype. When a man encounters a woman who unknowingly reflects his inner feminine, he doesn't fall in love with her body. He falls in love with the part of himself she awakens. The part that longs to be allowed. To be free of roles and masks. To be both soft and strong. A woman who can hold contradiction without collapsing invites him into his own complexity. And yet, so many women trade this depth for validation. They trade their mystery for clarity, their power for control. they fear being misunderstood more than being misused. And in doing so, they offer only fragments of themselves. But a man doesn't fall in love with fragments. He falls in love with the full spectrum, the dark, the light, the fierce, the tender. To the woman reading this, you may not know how powerful your presence is. You may not see that when you sit in your truth, you don't have to perform. That when you laugh with sincerity, or grieve without shame, or speak without seeking permission, you become unforgettable. Not because you tried, but because you stopped trying. You return to yourself, and he felt that. The world teaches women to win love through effort. But the unconscious doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy, to essence, to that inexplicable quality of being that cannot be manufactured. A man falls in love with how you make him feel when he forgets to guard himself. When he's so at ease he doesn't realize the moment he dropped his armor. That's the moment love enters, not like a storm but like sunlight on cold skin. She doesn't rush to prove she's different. She is different because she has stopped performing. She no longer tries to be what men want, because she has become what she needs. And that self-possession, that deep-rooted feminine sovereignty, is the very thing that unravels him. Not because he is weak, but because he is tired of pretending to be strong all the time. This is not seduction. This is remembrance. This is what happens when a woman stops abandoning herself. She becomes magnetic not because she asks for love, but because she embodies it. She becomes luminous not from chasing attention, but from reclaiming her own. And in that glow, a man does not merely admire her. He needs her. Not to complete him, but to call him back to the man he forgot he was. Somewhere deep within every man is a memory not formed by time, but by essence. A remembrance of the womb-like safety of the feminine, the stillness before the world taught him to fight. And when he meets a woman who radiates that rare kind of presence, steady, unneeding, untamed, he may not understand it, but he feels it. Pull, peace, a return. He doesn't fall in love because she's the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. He falls because her energy makes him feel like he can breathe again. Because in her presence, his nervous system softens. His inner child, so often exiled and silenced, is allowed to speak. And she listens, not as a savior but as a mirror. She doesn't rescue him. She recognizes him. This kind of woman is not common. She doesn't live in performance. She lives in truth. She doesn't chase after love because she has become love. She has done the inner work. The grief, the rage, the forgiveness. She sat with her mother wound, her unmet needs, her discarded dreams, and instead of hardening she softened. Not in weakness but in wisdom. That softness, that open yet boundaried energy, is what men fall for without realizing why. Because most of the world demands a man prove himself. At work he must produce. In public he must protect. Among friends he must posture. But in her presence, he is simply allowed to be. Not for what he does but for who he is. And this is no small thing. This is revolutionary. Rare. Unforgettable. She does not try to be easy to love. She is honest, even when her truth is inconvenient. She does not dilute her essence to avoid being alone. She walks with herself so intimately that loneliness becomes sacred, not shameful. That is the kind of woman a man remembers even years after she's gone. Because she did not need him to fill her. She invited him to meet her where she already stood, whole. And yet, she may not even realize the effect she has. Because she's not trying to cause it. Her magnetism is not strategic. It is spiritual, energetic, rooted in her embodiment of the feminine principle Jung spoke of. Receptive, intuitive, regenerative. This isn't about femininity in appearance. It's about feminine consciousness. The field of energy that makes a man feel safe enough to let go. So many women spend their energy becoming more beautiful, more desirable, more agreeable, thinking that love lives on the other side of effort. But it doesn't. Not the love that lasts. Not the love that transforms. The kind of love that changes a man does not come from being more. Comes from being fully, truthfully, unapologetically. If you've ever been told you were too much, or too quiet, or too deep, know this: the right man doesn't want you edited. He wants you real. He wants to feel your soul, not just your smile. And when he meets a woman who lives from that place, raw, rooted, radiant, he doesn't just love her. He is awakened by her. She becomes a doorway into himself. And that is the kind of love that no performance can create, and no time can erase. And so she walks through the world without needing to grasp. Because she knows, the man who is ready for her kind of depth will not run. He will recognize. He will remember. He will feel in her the home he's been searching for in all the wrong places. And when that happens, it is not fireworks, it is grounding. Not infatuation, it is revelation. He will not love her for what she offers. He will love her for what she is. Because she is the embodiment of the one thing he never knew he was starving for. A woman who sees not his mask but his essence. And when he has tasted this essence, when he has stood in the quiet storm of her truth, something within him shifts. It is not a decision he makes. It is a remembrance that overtakes him. He begins to shed the armor that once felt like salvation, now revealed as suffocation. For the first time, he desires not to conquer love, but to be conquered by its honesty. Not to win her, but to rise to meet her. She did not ask for this. She did not orchestrate his awakening. She simply held the field, unwavering, undemanding. She gave permission by example, not persuasion. And in doing so, she led without moving. This is the quiet leadership of the feminine. The kind that does not shout or seduce, but transmutes. She becomes the fire he didn't know he needed to walk through, only to realize it didn't burn him. It freed him. Because the woman who lives from her essence calls a man into his. She doesn't chase him into becoming more. She becomes so much herself that he either rises or falls away. There is no manipulation, no strategy, only the raw, radiant truth of a woman who no longer abandons herself. A woman who no longer performs, no longer pretends, no longer waits for permission to be whole. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming one's true self, is the path of the soul. And when a woman has walked this path, her very presence becomes a force. Not loud, not forceful, but undeniable. She ceases to be a reflection of what men want. She becomes a revelation of what they've been missing. So the man who is ready will not simply want her. He will respect her. He will not try to possess her because he understands, this kind of woman cannot be owned, only honored. He will not run from the discomfort she mirrors in him, because he senses the liberation behind it. He will not ask her to shrink, to soften her truth, to dim her fire. He will want to stand in it, even if it scorches away his old self. She is not loved because she makes him feel like a king. She is loved because she makes him feel human. She does not build him up through flattery. She undoes him, gently, unrelentingly, until what's left is real. And from that rawness, a deeper love is born. One that does not cling but connects. One that does not perform but penetrates. She no longer asks if she's too much. She knows that the right man will feel expanded by her presence, not intimidated. She no longer worries if she's lovable. She knows she is love embodied, not a transaction waiting to be earned. She no longer asks for promises. She asks for presence, for partnership, for truth. And from that place of unshakable worth, she chooses. Not out of scarcity but out of sovereignty. Not because she needs to be chosen but because she finally sees herself clearly. And that clarity is power. That clarity is peace. So to the woman who wonders why he fell in love so quietly, so deeply, it was never the lipstick, never the laughter, never the way you played the part. It was the way you stopped performing. It was the way you showed up, bare-souled and brave. It was the way you stood, not in seduction but in self-possession. And now you know. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses. If this message stirred something deep within you, if you've ever felt unseen, unheard, or spoken to in ways that made you question your worth, know this: you are not alone and you are not powerless. Subscribe to this channel for more Carl Jung-inspired insights on feminine power, attraction dynamics, and healing the unconscious patterns that hold us back. Like this video if you're choosing yourself. And share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might be the light someone else needs today. This is more than psychology. This is soul work. And you, woman, are worthy of truth, reverence, and real